Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frank Morgan, and I'm Vice President of the Metropolitan Washington Old Time Radio Club. Wendy Wilmer, our President, sends her greetings. She could not be with us here today. We're going to have an original premiere of a play written by Edgar Russell III, and then we're going to have trivia, which will be this year radio programs that went to television. So after the play, please hang around for that. Edgar, if you'd please say a few words to introduce.
Thank you, Frank. I'm very grateful to you and Marcia and our other actors for the play today. Some of them have pre-recorded. And I'm also grateful to Wendy Wilmer, who gave me the go-ahead to do this play for you. Some of you may have heard our play last year, Miranda's Miracle. And I always try to write something that has some deep feeling in it, whether it's a comedy or a drama or even a soap opera farce. The announcer is going to tell you in a moment about this play, but I just want to tell you that the three short stories that we're presenting, we hope that one of them may amuse you a little bit. We think one of them is very poignant. And the third one, we hope, will leave you with a sense of wonder. So, without further ado, as Arthur Anderson hated to say that word, Mary, would you give us our first cue?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, for our world premiere original play, we've selected 3 short tales, which have a number of things in common. But I'm only going to mention 3 of them. All 3 are written and directed by Edgar Farr Russell III. All 3 involve the unexpected return of an individual, and all 3 take place at midnight. Hence, we call our show 3 at Midnight. Here's the first, which is adapted from Edgar's play, Monologue for Beatrice Wood. And now, our narrator.
Picture, if you will, only the ghost light is shining on stage in a medium-sized old theater in Paris. Off stage, a white-haired writer-director in a gray suit sits in the middle of the 4th row, making changes to his script. The set reflects a combination living room, art studio, and bedroom, which is decorated with the reproductions of Beatrice Wood's own imaginative watercolors, primitive-styled pottery, art books and magazines from the Dadaist period of the early 20th century, and framed photographs of her numerous friends and lovers through her many decades of life. She will soon materialize on stage and speak directly to the man who remains seated off stage.
Oh, my. You're surprised at my appearance. Darling, of course it's me. I'm not giving up my style, even though I've lived to be 105. I know I've been dead for 24 years, but how could I miss this theatrical party in my honor? As I look around me, I can see the designer has created a lovely set for your play. Or is it my play? It was my life, after all. Very accurately furnished with reproductions of my artwork and sculpture, thanks to Caitlin's artistic eye. But of course, Minter's the producer, and he gave you both a large budget. That's not really why I came back, my dear. You see, you don't yet understand me. Understand us, I mean. We were all extremely talented, but completely self-centered. Duchamp, Rocher, Man Ray, all the Dadaists.
Stage lights go down for a moment and then up.
Do you like me better now at age 56? Coco Chanel designed this amethyst dress personally. Young man, you're much too caring, loving person to bring this play realistically to life, but to your credit, you have steeped yourself in your own personal romantic drama, surrounded by two beautiful women who each desire you physically, but for different reasons. Why are you hesitating, my love? Sleep with them both at the same time, if possible. That's what we all did. Passion and creativity was our motto, not Love. But most of us lived a long time anyways.
The lights go down once more and then up.
Now, at 24, I'm practically a virgin. When I'm alone, I recall my long journey. Oh, do you know to what I will attribute my future longevity? Oh, chocolate and young men like you, dear boy. Oh, come, I'll prepare dinner wearing just my apron. Then you and I will make love passionately, and in the morning we'll write about that experience.
Modesty demands that stage lights go down now, including the disc light, if you please. It is now midnight again. Our second offering is adapted from one chapter of Edgar's novel, Colonel Bear's Voyage to the Moon Princess.
I heard from my friend Colonel Edward Bear. His journey from his previous assignment in Washington, D.C., to his new permanent change of station in Mexico City found him stopping in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I might add that Colonel Bear is a foot-tall brown teddy bear in a blue Air Force Class A lieutenant colonel's uniform. To save per diem, he spends the night at U.S. Post Office number 3 in the overseas bin, awaiting the next leg of his journey to the beautiful Moon Princess to whom he's been assigned. The good colonel sent word that he'd had a most unusual encounter with a strange, blonde-haired, blue-eyed 10-year-old boy and his pet chihuahua, who both appeared at the stroke of midnight. A boy of that description had indeed been a friend and classmate of mine in the 4th grade in 1964. But how could that be the same person now? Well, I'll let Colonel Bear continue the story in his own voice.
It's been a long day traveling in a large mail sack, being jostled by bulky wrapped packages, many, many letters, and untold advertising circulars. I'm looking forward to getting some shut-eye in the bin, because I know the postal employees will return dark 30 to get me on my way. I'm thinking of the reception I may expect when I report for attaché duty to Her Highness, the Moon Princess. I'm about to close my eyes when I begin hearing a strange sound. What's that? Drumming? Is that a chihuahua? Who's there? Identify yourself.
Hey, Daddy-O, it's me, Roy Masters, and my dog Peppy.
It's after hours, and civilians are not allowed in the post office until it opens at 8 a.m. How did you get in?
I wanted to speak with you, Colonel Bear.
Have we met, young man?
No, sir, but I'm a buddy of Edward Relief.
Oh, yes, the retired officer I met at the Fort Myers Shopette, who has arranged for my reassignment from there to, well, pleased to make your acquaintance, Roy, and Peppy, but I still don't understand.
You see, in the 4th grade, Edward was a friend of mine, maybe my best friend, so I felt real bad when I accidentally broke one of his 45 RPM records, The Battle of the New Orleans by Johnny Horton. I told my mom what happened, so she decided to get him the whole album of Johnny Horton's greatest hits to make up for my clumsiness.
That was very nice of her.
Yeah, but that's not the best thing. You see, I had a hip mom. She'd heard of a new English music group, the Beatles, who had just released their first album introducing the Beatles.
Oh, yes, I've heard of them a little before my time.
Well, Edward and me and his younger brother, Frederick, played the record to death. Edward took up guitar the year before, and I loved playing drums like the Beatles' Ringo Starr.
I see, but why are you telling me this?
It's important that you understand. Edward and I dug the Beatles so much that we decided to wear Beatle wigs and put on a show for Miss Lockery's 4th grade class at Sidwell Friends School.
Just you two? Weren't there 4 fellows in the Beatles?
That's why we got 2 other classmates. Carter, who already had a bowl-styled haircut like the Fab Four, and I always forget the 4th guy. Was it Peter? Or was it Greg?
I don't blame you for forgetting. That was 56 years ago.
We played 2 songs that day. The first was, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Edward played guitar. I played the Skins, and all 4 of us sang. I can't remember the other song, but I know it had to come out of Edward's Beatle book of recorded hits with their 4 cool individual photos on a glossy black background.
Nothing wrong with that part of your memory. So how was your performance?
It was neat. We were a big hit with the 4th graders.
Congratulations, Roy. Now tell me, did you and Edward and the other boys keep on playing music together?
Wish we had. You see, my mom was divorced, so the next year she decided to move my younger sister Janie and me to Fort Lauderdale. Easy there, Peppy. Did you forget we took you along, too? You don't turn your back on family.
No, that's true enough. Speaking of staying in touch, did you ever see Edward again? See here now. Where did Roy go? Who are you?
It's silly. It's me. I've turned 18 now.
This is all very irregular, most unmilitary. Why?
That's because I saw Edward just one more time. As a senior in high school, I came up to visit. We weren't the same kids we had been. Edward didn't say anything, but I could see that he wasn't feeling groovy about me.
Why do you think that, Roy?
Edward was always a straight shooter, and I told him I'd started messing with drugs, even getting into, well, after that visit, I don't think we ever spoke again.
I'm sorry that happened.
But you know something cool? Edward never forgot me.
What? Wait a minute. Are you changing again, Roy?
Sure. Now I'm 33, the same age as Jesus when he... You see, when Edward was 33, and a major in the U.S. Air Force stationed in Omaha, he recalled that fabulous Beatles concert we performed 24 years earlier.
He strikes me as a fellow who remembers everything.
Edward's a real groovy artist, too. He made this crazy sculpture. He said it was an assemblage that recalled that happy day we pretended we were John, Paul, George, and Ringo, shaking our hair.
I believe I've seen that piece in his home, but it didn't seem happy to me.
You don't dig the vibes, man. At the bottom of the sculpture is a Xerox of Edward's closed eyes remembering. Above that, inside a wooden box, are figures of John, Paul, and George playing guitars.
Yes, but it's most strange on the top, because as Ringo plays his drums, the 6 tiny plastic figures of girls surrounding him all face away from Ringo. I meant to ask Edward about that.
After Edward completed the whole thing, Frederick eyeballed it and told him that instead of being joyful, it was pretty somber.
Yes, it is. But that title painted on the front.
He was going to call it Shrine to a 33-year-old's Memories.
Yes, I read that part of the title, but there's more.
Somehow Edward knew his sculpture wasn't finished, but he didn't know why.
Do you know why, Roy?
Yes. The week Edward designed and built it, I died in a Florida hotel room, alone.
Oh, as he worked on it, Edward must have unconsciously sensed your death.
It was only after my mom reached out to him with the news that he understood why his creation was so serious.
That's why the final title is Shrine to a 33-year-old's Memories, in memory of Roy Masters.
Yes, and Edward shared his vision. He submitted it to the Joslin Art Museum's Biennial 20, which has a 12-state art competition. New York art dealer Holly Solomon juried 1,100 pieces and selected 73 for the show and singled Edward out for special recognition.
I'll bet people who saw it were touched by the emotion.
Edward's mom and dad and Frederick came to Omaha to see the show. Then he mailed copies of the catalog to my mom and sister. And he even sent a copy to my dad, too, in Colorado.
Edward told me all 3 wrote him back, expressing how much it meant to them.
And how much our friendship still means to me. That's why I came back to see you tonight, Colonel Bear. Please let Edward know I'm not suffering anymore and that I'm at peace in...
Of course I will, Roy. Thank you. Thank you for this. I know your words will comfort Edward.
Come on, Peppy. Time to go. I know you're excited to go home. Don't make an accident here, Peppy. I don't have any doggy wipes with me. So long, Colonel Bear.
Roy? Roy? After Colonel Bear told me all this, I went to look at my sculpture and pondered the possibility of longed-for reunions in the fullness of time. Colonel Bear also thought about things for a long while before sleep finally overtook him. The next morning, as the sun rose, he knew he'd soon continue the trip to his new special companion. We're all on a journey of some kind, aren't we? May yours be a happy one.
As we bring our second story to a close, we now hear the chime of a ship's clock as it fills the living room. The 8 bells means that midnight has come once again, as our narrator begins our third and final story, which is adapted from Edgar's poem entitled, How Will We Say Goodbye?
When someone we love becomes ill and the prognosis for recovery is poor, many thoughts may begin to fill our minds. Hope for a miraculous healing? How can I make their day-to-day existence easier? How much time will we have together before the end? And most importantly, how will we say goodbye? Months of knowing her end is approaching. What if I'm not with her at that moment? Will she instead come to me in a dream? Materialize at the foot of my bed? My father's early morning phone call awakens me. Guess she's not going to appear after all. As the weeks go by, I wonder. Later, at midnight in my parents' living room, I see laying on their sofa a shrine of Mother Seton brochure with the portrait of this saint as she once was, an attractive young socialite named Elizabeth who loved to dance. My mother had been devoted to Elizabeth Seton. Maybe that's why Elizabeth's eyes began shimmering. They urged me to look up at the pictures hung over the mantel, drawn in pastel when my parents were young and beautiful, one in uniform, one in lace. My mother's eyes were glowing just like Seton's. Waves of love radiating from her face envelop me as I stand before the two of them. Incredulous, I glance over at my father's picture, and his eyes smile at me, but without the same intensity. I turn back to hers. Her message to me comes through like I was a Morse code operator receiving a wire.
Don't be sad, son. I'm just fine. There is no death here. I love you very much.
Stop. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 17. Okay. I'm wide awake. No dreams, no hallucinations. The transmission fades. My mother's eyes pastel again. This is how we said goodbye. It's been many years since that midnight. Now, I'm sending a message to the two of them.
You have been listening to a newly written show entitled 3 at Midnight. It starred, in order of appearance, Edgar Russell as the narrator and as Lieutenant Colonel Edward Bear, Marcia Bauman as Beatrice Wood and Roy Masters at 10, Wendy Wilmer as the voice of Peppy the dog, Frank Morgan as Roy Masters at 18 and at 33, and Cynthia McDowell as the voice of the mother. Sound effects were created by Marcia and Mark Bush. Music was composed and performed by Tom Saputo, who also mastered our sound. Roy Masters' ghostly drumming was performed by Edgar Russell. The engineer was Mary Ramlow. The show was written, produced, and directed by Edgar Farr Russell III and is copyrighted 2022 by him. Broadcast or performance by anyone else without written permission is expressly prohibited. Your announcer is Frank Morgan.
Hey, Frank.
Now, please stay tuned for the Russell Brothers production of Beatles or Bust, an engaging comedy set in 1964's Washington, D.C., which features two young brothers who will do almost anything to see the Beatles in their first U.S. concert. It's part of the new series, Those Burleaf Boys. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.